Photographers are assholes. Just setting the mic levels. Photographers are like cashiers. They're often scanning items. They like telling people how much things cost. But they don't ever smile. Doesn't mean if 5 of them came to me for help, I'd refuse. You're the monster, not me.
All I want is the perfect camera. All I want is the perfect camera.
So I shall help 5 desperate loser photographers today. We're on the Blackmagic OG with the Voigtlander 58mm 21.4. Stopped down to 2. And we got the Sennheiser MKH16. I just made a video on the Vegetable Police Network. And I used the Canon 85mm 1.2. And I was like, every day I do this. I make videos for multiple channels. And each one I just want to switch the setup, switch the focal length. It's fun times. Who's winning this battle? Someone? One of us, for sure. Was that your question? I have questions. I see mostly people keep 200 watt light on, 7 to 15% how much light in watt is required for YouTube video. There's definitely an exact amount requirement. I mean, for head to chest, is 60 watt light not enough at 30 to 50%? That's a lot of math. A lot of math on these inquiries of yours. In my opinion, you probably could get by with a frickin' incandescent light bulb, but let's just push it further into some decent territory. Most 60 watt lights, I think I was using it at like 5% or something. It's never, whenever somebody bragging how like powerful their light is, it's like, when would you ever use it at its even quarter of a potential? Like never. I wish I could. Mine's at 12% right now, 450 watt. And that's not even my key light. My key light is a tube light. That's the key to light. It wraps around your face in a Marcus Pix-like fashion. There's a lot of YouTubers out there using ND filters indoors because they want to blast their light so hard. So like, just relax. Get any cheap 60 watt cob light from China, and then just the diffusion's more important. I'm a fan of the lantern, although it's basically behind me. This is the worst. Why didn't I face that way? It's because I suck at framing and exposure and everything. But just cheap light, and then a lantern or a softbox or an umbrella is nice. Lantern, then umbrella, then softbox. That wasn't your question. The only reason you would want a super powered light is for slow motion. I like to blast that so I can keep my ISO at the base, and then it doesn't look like trash. So like, for some reason in slow motion, you start raising that ISO and it's a nightmare. The Fuji X-H2S was the worst example of this. It looked okay at base ISO and 240 frames per second. You crank it one notch, one stop, you're done. So lights exist. Wow, you're truly impressive being able to adjust the sun flares with just a subtle move of your action cam is amazing. How do you even spot these details at such a small screen? Your expertise is truly admirable. And it's no wonder that we all trust your reviews and insights. Keep up the fantastic work. Cheers, man. That guy was happy. Huh? Some long due credit over here. So what he's talking about, I was vlogging on a skateboard with the old DJI Action 4. You can't even see that. I suck at this framing bullshit. So like, when I'm looking into the lens, I can see whether or not, yeah, that's better. If the sun is hitting it, you can see it lighting up the lens. Whereas if you just turn it a little bit, then the sun is no longer hitting it, and it looks much better because the flares are bullshit when it's hitting that element. So you got to know to turn it. That's my expertise, turning away from the sun. It's funny because there's so many different angles you could go. If the sun's up there, it's like, okay, that's really bad lighting, but if you turn, you can use it to your advantage. If you're straight on facing the sun, that's going to look the worst. If you're backlit, sometimes that's cool. You get a little highlight glow over here, and it looks kind of nice. It depends how your camera is handling that dynamic range, though. And then if you turn to the side, that seems to be a nice little sweet spot. But like, can you control that? Usually when I'm vlogging, I'm walking somewhere. I don't choose the direction. I have to get somewhere that way. So it's like, can you really angle yourself? You're like walking diagonally. It's not right. You're going to be arrested, but lights exist sometimes in the sun, and try not to get it in there. You can see it very obviously when you're vlogging, even with a lens hood. It's like, okay, I used to see it on that Laowa 7.5 mil all the time. It's like, the sun's hitting right in there, and then you get the rainbow flares. So it's like, just angle it a little bit down. Okay, until the sun disappears and it'll look much nicer. Hi, bro. Do you think the DJI Pocket 3 lens is not wide enough? I was so excited for it until I got to travel with and realized 20 mil equivalent and not enough for a V-arm length. Vlogging ended up with a GoPro 11. I'm not keen on DJI wide angle. Didn't like as much bad distortion. Thinking of a Z30 with the lens for low light. Well, so many things to get to here. GoPro for daytime, what do you think? Keep up the good work. Singapore, hey, they got some camera deals. It's not wide enough, and it's kind of annoying, but they made the compromise of how wide can we be for handheld vlogging losers, and also when you point it around and film something, if you have too wide of a lens, then that looks stupid. So it's like DJI Action 4, amazing. I think I prefer the look of it for handheld. It's wider, it's more fun, especially on the skateboard. And then if I want to turn around and film something, it's too far away looking. It's just wide everything. It looks dumb as hell. So 20, it's still kind of that, but it's much better. So the Pocket 3 for vlogging, I don't know, like it's a bit too much background blur. It's not perfect in any means, but the specs are nice, and it's easy to hold, and it's stable, and it's good audio, so it's good enough. Whereas the Action Cam, it's like, it is more fun and wide and goofy, and it is better technically, but it's also much worse. You're like not in focus. You get zero separation. It's goofy looking, and it's not good in low light. So like an Action Cam, much worse in low light. Even on like a cloudy day, it'll look so much worse. So it's like, there's no happy medium, but I like using both. I do use both. DJI Pocket 3 for some vlogs, and then what I've been doing lately is if I do a scooter vlog, DJI Action 4 on a chest mount, and then I'm riding, boom, showing the world, and then when I want to stop, I just quick release, Ulanzi clip off, and then boom, I'm vlogging, and that's fun times. So it's like, would I want to do that on the Pocket 3? I might try it, but I feel like it'll look way worse. It'll be way less stable, and then the vlogging parts will look better, but it won't be worth it. So there's many conundrums. But a Z30 with the 12 to 28, decent. You're not getting much specs in the slow-mo arena, and it's much shakier, but it's decent. It will look better than the Pocket 3, definitely, but it's much bigger. 8-bit files, ouch. But Nikon color science, you could debate that. I almost went for it. I was waiting, but I'm waiting more for Nikon full frame. If we vlog with a Canon EOS R, is it worth it to upgrade to a newer full frame mirrorless camera? Probably not. I don't know, man. Not that I sold the EOS R, that was a treasured gift from the Corzine family, and I would have sold it. But when Marcus Pix gave me the R8, I was like, do we need both? I do prefer the R8, but there's a lot of downsides to it. One, the color science is somewhat worse, I think. I think the original EOS R was better. But that's where the advantages end. You do get better battery life as well on the original EOS R, and if you take photos, technically 33 megapixels, pretty nice. And also the original C-Log seemed to be almost as good as C-Log 3, but way easier to edit the files, because it's not 10-bit, and it just looked nice. But like, really, the R8, even though you got a puny little battery, you get a lot more slow-mo, you got 4K 60, you get 10-bit now, more dynamic range, better autofocus. I think it is. Not really. When I looked side by side, I had the EOS R and the R8. I just figured the R8, it's so much lighter, it has 4K 60, HD 180, everything's 10-bit, we're getting C-Log 3 now. Technically everything's better, it's just harder to edit the files. like we talked about on my PC of the century. Yes, you could make proxies if you want to spend that kind of time. Wasted. Dumpster boy. The original EOS R is like 1080p only because the 4K is such a huge crop, but you can kind of use that crop to your advantage sometimes, but then you are less than APS-C. I don't know. It's probably not really worth spending unless you can sell the EOS R for like a similar price. You probably could sell that and then buy an R8 for like barely any loss. It is kind of worth it, but kind of not at the same time. It's kind of worse. I moved. Not only am I no longer in focus, most likely, I stopped it down, moved closer, and now we have more tonne. Why is HD 120 so bad on the EM1 Mark III? I've tried everything I can think of. Is it any better on the OM1? Oh, it's not. It is worse, if anything. It actually is better because it's 240 frames per second. So it's, by default, it's better than the EM1 III. It looks about identical. It's just the problem with that is Olympus, they didn't put in the effort needed to make slow-mo look really good, and they realized that, and so they over-sharpen the profile and you can't change it. And it just looks over-sharpened and bad. Sometimes it looks okay for the odd thing. It's pretty sharp, over-sharp. But like, they know it looks like hot garbage, and so they've tweaked it to look somewhat respectable, and that's the problem. If you're gonna do good slow motion, you need to like prioritize that, and I think that's what the Sony a7S III was. They did low megapixels so they could make the best looking 4K 120 possible, and if you ever compare it to anything else, usually the Sony looks a little sharper than even the Canon R5. So it's like, if you prioritize slow-mo, boom, it'll look nice. If you don't, and you just try to add slow-mo to it, and you're high megapixel, it's gonna go bad. So it's like, I don't know what the secret is for slow-mo, because if you look at a slow-mo cam, it's like, it's very different. They do like 1,000 frames per second, and that's amazing, and it looks sharp, but like the low light, the dynamic range, they all suffer hard. So like, I don't know where the compromise is to make the ultimate. Did you hear that? I touched the mic. So in my opinion, the cameras with the best looking slow-mo, Sony a7S III, probably the best, 240 frames. They get the slowest with the nicest look. And then like Panasonic G9 II looked really good in 300 frames. It's a little soft, but if you're doing just like human faces and goofing around, you're not going for wildlife with the ultimate detail and feathers, then 300 frames actually looks really nice. Older Fuji cameras looked good. X-T4, 240 frames, not bad. Even the XS20, good. Nikon trails the industry right now in speed, and it doesn't look like that's being fixed anytime soon. They're like 120 max, and when they do 240, boy, it's gonna be 8-bit with a crop. How bad is that gonna look? Bad. Because the Fuji crop's hard, like 38% in the XH2S. Ouch. Sony, no crop whatsoever. That's why it's probably looking the best. And Panasonic, no crop. So just throwing that out there. Canon, they're okay. 180 for most of their cameras. It's not great. It's okay. Slow-mo, I wish you were better, but you're not. And that's a problem. So I helped you. Helped you a lot. My light is so behind me, it's not even funny. But the tube light of life saves us. That's your key light. I bet you that's all you need. Let's just confirm that with science. I was wrong. This is not the best look, but we've done it, and tube lights are cheap. You trying to argue that this costed a lot of money? No, you're not. It's a ghost show. If I would have moved it better, just out of the shot. Tube lights, man. They don't even sell this one anymore. Freewell, I was looking. It's like, this is the one I use. I don't even see it on their site. So I'll link another one down below, and you buy that one. It's just as good. It's not. It almost fell. It's a terrible tripod. I'll leave. How you doing? Subscribing for more videos, Santa?